Welcome back to more Club World Cup fantasy content. This will be my team selection for Matchday 2, and it's worth noting a few things that I discussed in my best wildcard squad yesterday. So the captaincy is different to all the rules that I highlighted in my how to play guide, because I don't know what they're doing at FIFA, but essentially a few years ago for the World Cup, you captain one player, and once he has played, you can switch it once more to someone who hasn't featured yet within the match day. And then once your new captain plays as well, you are no longer able to switch the captaincy. But in this game, it's different because you can captain Lionel Messi in the opener. He blanks, he gets 3 points overall. Then you can switch it to Harry Kane, who also does nothing in a 10-0 win over Auckland City. So you're like, you know what? I'm going to change it once more to someone from the PSG Atletico game. And let's say you go for Doué, who also blanks. Then you switch him once again to a Porto player like Agoa or Rodrigo Mora. Oh, he blanks? Let's change it once more. So you kind of get my drift. You can change it as many times as you would like. So it's even easier on paper to get a captaincy score than it is in UCL Fantasy, where you're limited to one per day within a match day. So that is different. It's worth highlighting because some of you might not be aware, and it will be very useful to you in future rounds. And the other thing is the deadline. Make sure to lock in your squad hours before. So in the rules section, it says at kickoff of the first game within a match day, that's when the deadline will lock and you can't make transfers. But in the app and the website, it will say 1 hour before kickoff. So in the upcoming example for match day 2, the first game kicks off at 5 p.m. on the 19th of June on Thursday, but the deadline will say 4 p.m. on the website or app, and it will probably lock in at 3 p.m. in the UK. So be very wary about the deadline. Lock in your squads in advance, and it's not like UCL Fantasy where you can check a few lineups, and get that information and then lock things in peacefully. No, because that deadline actually works. In this game, that isn't the case. So my advice is to have everything sorted 2 hours before kickoff of the first game of the upcoming deadline. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you never miss a single upload or live stream for Club World Cup Fantasy, FPL, and the Champions League. Check all the links in the description below for my Patreon and the Championships, for links to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, Club World Cup Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in the description, and leave a 5-star review on Spotify and my podcast formats. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Matchday 1 isn't completely over yet, but it's worth discussing my performance so far, and it has been a pretty dismal start to Club World Cup Fantasy, and both of my goalkeepers blanked. Jan Sommer was my last roll of the dice, and he only got 2 points against Monterrey. Sergio Ramos scored the opening goal, and Lautaro Martinez scored an equaliser, but in the end, it's a blank for Sommer. Denzel Dumfries completely missed out due to injury, and he's now doubtful for Matchday 2 as well. But things were much better in my defensive line, but I think this is the best position to get those differentials, those of less than 5% ownership, to qualify for the scouting bonus. So if that player gets more than 4 points in a match day, they'll also give you 2 additional points. And that was the main thinking behind Svensson, Cambiasso, and Stanisic, but all of their ownerships rose to 5% or over before the deadline even hit. And of course, you got that premature deadline, and I was looking to change all of them and get some additional points in the process. Jonathan Tah was considered, for example. He got the assist for Kingsley Coman's opening goal against Auckland City and also qualified for the scouting bonus. So he got 12 points compared to Stanisic's 7. So in the end, it was a bit disappointing and underwhelming. But at least, looking at the bright side, I had 3 defenders who kept clean sheets in Rodrigo Mora, Stanisic, and Svensson. And I've got 2 defenders yet to play in Gavardio facing Wydad Casablanca, and it's worth kind of timestamping this. This video is recorded on Wednesday morning, and my other option is Cambiasso, who will play in the early hours of Thursday morning at 2 a.m. in the UK, and he faces Al Ain in the process. But I'm not really too infused about my defenders because they don't have less than 5% ownership, and I think the ceiling might not be as high, even though the 2 upcoming defenders that haven't played yet for me have a bit of attacking potential, especially if Gavardio plays as a left back. But things all go downhill in my midfield. Yes, I had Elise who got 19 points. Thank God, otherwise we could be looking at a dismal week. But Mastantuono and Doué both blanked, despite both of their teams scoring a healthy number of goals. River won 3-1 against Urawa Red Diamonds, and Atletico lost 4-0 to PSG, but Doué did absolutely nothing. But at least Elise was involved in that 10-0 victory. But I can't say the same thing about a certain fraud up front in Harry Kane, but he's on my bench, so we can discuss him a little bit later Erling Haaland will be my next captain, and if he blanks once more, then I will switch it to Cambiasso as well. But I think this captaincy system is completely broken. I get it that it's different to other fantasy games, but in the rules section it says one thing, in reality it's something else. All we can do is try to enjoy the game as much as possible, and I think Erling Haaland could turn this pretty poor week for me into a decent one, but let's see how well he does against Wydad, Casablanca, and Guirassy blanked against Fluminense, who are a decent team. I thought they could cause problems to Borussia Dortmund, and they certainly did, and at least I got some points from that game through Svensson, but a lot of blanks in my 50-man squad, and Mbappe could be another one, because guess what? He was my 12th man, but reports indicate that he missed training, and Rodrigo will likely play up front against Al Hilal, so Mbappe will miss match day 1. So it's pretty much a terrible start, the worst case scenario. Using the power captain, or as it's called now, the maximum captain, that would have gained me a lot of points in the process, and my plan was always to wildcard in match day 2 or 3. And after having such a poor start, the temptation would certainly be to activate the wildcard. But I look at my squad going into the upcoming deadline, and I think it's fairly decent still. So I'm going to compare the 2 free transfers route that I'm currently considering, and then show you my updated wildcard squad, because it contained Mbappe and Dumfries in my original video, and both of them are doubtful for match day 2. So I'll show you some replacements for both of those players as well. But let's discuss the substitutions first before highlighting my score, which I'd rather avoid doing, but I've got to do it through the good, the bad, and all that good stuff. You know, I'm not even going to talk about some poetry or whatever. Let's get on with it. In goal, I had Armani. He got 3 points, so I actually lost out on a point by bringing on Jan Sommer there. Also Ashore, I mean, that set the tone from the beginning. After that stupid deadline we got a few days ago, Ashore was subbed off after 15 minutes against Inter Miami. He broke down in tears, and guess what? So did I, mate, because this game is absolutely amazing. I also had Aktoglu, who was a substitute against Boca Juniors, and Benfica were 2-0 down, but the 2 Argentines, Angel Di Maria and Otamendi, carried Benfica to a decent point in the end, and my other player was Harry Kane, and the less said about him, the better. In terms of my points in the rank, it isn't looking too good right now. It is probably my worst start to one of these kind of formats, because I typically do well in the Euros, the World Cup, and in UCL Fantasy, where I consistently finish at a very high rank, so it is not really an ideal start. I was counting on Mbappe to bail me out, but I don't think he'll play against Al Hilal, so it all comes down to Erling Haaland as my captain against Wydad Casablanca, Gavardio and Cambiasso to salvage something from match day 1, and I don't think much more needs to be said about it. It's time to move on and try to optimize my squad for match day 2, and this is one such transfer. Selling Ashore, who could be out for match day 2 anyway, to Angel Di Maria, who faces the worst team in this tournament in Auckland City, and Di Maria will join Rosario Central after the Club World Cup ends, so this could be a nice kind of farewell message and tour for the Benfica fans, and he did very well against Boca Juniors, scoring that penalty. But he's not the only Benfica player I'm looking to target, because I think selling Kane to Pavlidis, not only would that fund the Di Maria move, but it also gets rid of this headache of Harry Kane. I know he can still do really well against Boca Juniors and Benfica in match days 2 and 3. It'd be typical if he goes off in those games instead, but I think Pavlidis' ceiling is so high against Auckland City, and having 2 Benfica attackers against the worst team in this tournament, and then wildcarding them out potentially in match day 3, which can also be quite tough to deal with in terms of rotation, that could be one way of me making up points on those who had a great start in match day 1. So I can go kind of all in on Benfica now, and then use the wildcard to tackle rotation in match day 3. That is my current plan, but I will show you an updated wildcard squad later, and it's going to be very close, I think, and I'm going to try to decide everything before the deadline stream even begins, because I'm not taking any risks, and of course we all know what happened last time out, and all we can do is enjoy this game throughout the summer, and then focus on FPL and UCL Fantasy when the time comes. But let me now delve into my team selection for match day 2. So this will be my provisional squad if I were to buy Pavlidis and Angel Di Maria to replace Kane and Ashore. So in goal, I'd go for Sommer because he plays before Armani, so that's the way you want to structure things. And the same goes for your outfield players. Have those starting earlier in the match day, in the first day or two, in your starting 11, and those that play later, even if it's Erling Haaland and players of that quality and price tag, you can leave them on the bench and then make substitutions to take out your low scoring players for those that are yet to play within the match day all the rules are covered. It's very simple once you get the hang of it. And if you have played UCL Fantasy, the Euros, or the World Cup, then this will be very similar. But there are only one or two things that are slightly different, like the deadlines and the captaincy, which was covered at the beginning of this video. But I think Sommer is a good option in Matchday 2. And the same goes for Stanisic, Mora, and Svensson. They all have good fixtures, but the main appeal about some of these options is, the low ownership, and whilst they can still give you nice returns and help you rise up the mini leagues and the rankings, in terms of scouting bonus, they will not qualify unless they dip below 5% in terms of ownership. So if that's the case, I'd be happy to keep one or two of them, and if I'm not wildcarding in Matchday 2, then I don't see a big need to sell these players. But I think that's the main advantage for those that wildcard now in Matchday 2. You can see the really low owned players and the fixtures they have for Matchdays 2 and 3 combined, and then wildcard and try to balance both worlds in the best possible way. But in terms of the fixtures of my goalkeeper and these defenders, it looks fairly decent on paper. So Sommer facing Urawa Red Diamonds, Stanisic facing Boca. That could be quite tough. I think Bayern will win that game, but they could concede in the process. Rodrigo Mora facing Inter Miami, and as bad as they are, they still have Lionel Messi who can cause problems, and Porto haven't had a great season. And Svensson is facing Mamelodi Sundowns. He didn't have a great game against Fluminense in Matchday 1, but I think Dortmund can keep a clean sheet in both Matchdays 2 and 3, so going for a differential defender with less than 5% ownership is definitely a great play for Borussia Dortmund. Now, looking at my midfield, I'm less keen about it. Arcticoglu might not even start the game once more, and if that's the case, he could be another priority sell, and every hit you take in this game will be a -3. If you didn't make a single transfer in Matchday 2 and didn't activate the wildcard, then you can roll and have free transfers for Matchday 3. Then, of course, for the round of 16 in Matchday 4, you get unlimited transfers, and then it kind of changes a little bit. So you get 4 transfers for Matchday 5, you get 5 for Matchday 6, and then for the Club World Cup final in Matchday 7, you get up to 6 transfers to fix your team. But by that stage, you only need a starting 11. For every other matchday, you can bolster your 50-man squad overall to maximize your chances of getting points through substitutions and the unlimited captains. But having Elise, Doué, Mastantuono, Di Maria and Arcticoglu looks decent on paper. I'm just a bit concerned about the minutes of the Turkish international. I think he will start in Matchday 2, to be fair, but it isn't set in stone. And to be honest, with my setup, if I were to buy Di Maria and Pavlidis, having a triple up in Benfica looks crazy, but I think Auckland City is definitely worth targeting, and I can always get rid of all of them on the Matchday 3 wildcard if I were to go down this route. I think Elise is a great option against Boca Juniors, and despite Doué's recent disappointments, especially in the Nations League and in Matchday 1 of this tournament, I still think he's a top talent, and he showed what he could do in finals like the Champions League against Inter Milan and also the Coupe de France final against Reims, where he got 2 assists as well. And Mastantuono, I was very disappointed by him. I know he's only 17 years old, he's joining Real Madrid after this tournament, but for River to win 3-1 and for him not to be involved whatsoever, he's also on penalty duties, it was definitely underwhelming, but I think he's got something in store for us in Matchday 2 or 3. And to complete the starting 11, I've got 2 high-quality forwards in Guirassy and Pavlidis, so that means no Harry Kane. I know how this ends if I were to go down this route. He'll probably score a brace or a hat-trick against Boca Juniors, but I think you don't need to go for 2 or 3 premium forwards in this game. I know they're very enticing and they will offer that consistency, but so can Pavlidis and Guirassy, especially with fixtures like Mamelodi Sundowns and Auckland City. So I really like this attacking line, and even the midfield for the most part. Arcticoglu is my only slight doubt, and that's only if he doesn't start the game. And looking at my bench very quickly, I've got Armani facing Monterrey, and also Erling Haaland and Gvardiol facing Al Ain. Then they face Juventus in Matchday 3, and of course Cambiasso is also on my bench. He faces Wydad Casablanca in Matchday 2. So the wildcard can sort a lot of issues by using it next Matchday. So for Matchday 3, instead of right now, I can get rid of my City and Juventus players and avoid that sort of clash. I can also get rid of my Benfica players. In this case, I'd have a triple up and go all out to target Auckland City. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Would you wildcard with this squad, or would you make similar transfers and go all in on Benfica and then offload them on the wildcard in Matchday 3 instead? But in terms of the captaincy, guess who I'm going to go for? Rodrigo Moura, because this game is absolutely bonkers. You just go for the player who plays first. In this case, Porto play on the 19th of June, and if he blanks, I'll just switch the captaincy to the next player. It's ridiculous, I know. I mean, I was going to say, yeah, I'm going to captain Pavlidis or Garassi, someone a bit more serious, right? But yeah, Rodrigo Moura is going to be my first captain with this provisional team. If I wildcard, it will be slightly different. Maybe he doesn't even make the final cut, but that's something you want to be very mindful of when you do wildcard and stuff like that, to have players on every single day and from different matches. So maybe avoiding a few double or triple ups if you can. So then you can have more captaincy opportunities and more of a balance in your 15-man squad. But yeah, this game is ridiculous and bonkers. Part of me loves it, part of me does hate it, but there you go. We have to enjoy the process, and it is a summer international tournament sort of game. I mean, international, it's a intercontinental tournament, whatever. I'm covering it. Hopefully you enjoy the ride here. I'll be going live for every single deadline stream as usual, just like I do for UCL Fantasy and FPL. But before I show you my updated wildcard squad, let me discuss the odds, also some fixtures, ownership figures, things that can be very interesting for the scouting bonus, and if you're looking for some template picks in every single position, all of that will be covered in this video. Once the clean sheet odds and the goal scorer probabilities are out for Matchday 2, I'll be relaying that information, so hopefully in time for that deadline stream tomorrow. But you can see the tournament winner odds, and we have Real Madrid, Man City, PSG, Bayern Munich and Chelsea in the top 5. Then you have Inter Milan, Atletico Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Juventus and Flamengo complete in the top 10, and you can also see other teams ranked a little bit lower in this list. But let's discuss the ownership figures. So in terms of template options, the highest owned players include Mbappe, and that could dip if he misses Matchday 1 against Al Hilal, Hakimi, Kane, Dumfries, Elise, Nuno Mendes, Sommer, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Cucurella, Gvardiol, Dembele, Palmer, Mastantuono, Ashore, Doué, and Haaland. And I have to say, a lot of them have disappointed so far in Matchday 1. Now let's look at positions specifically. So with goalkeepers, the highest owned picks include Sommer, Donnarumma and Armani, and 2 of them are in my team at the moment. Courtois, El Shaarawy, Neuer, Ederson, Kobel, Oblak, and Diogo Costa, who missed Matchday 1, and I covered this in my previous deadline stream. He was replaced by Ramos, a 4-point family and goalkeeper. They all have more than 5% ownership, and the rest of those on this list have less than 5%, which means they qualify for the scouting bonus. But in the case of Diogo Costa, reports indicate he could be available for Matchday 2 or 3, and that could be a huge boost for Porto as well. Looking at another position here with the defenders, Hakimi, Dumfries, Nuno Mendes, Trent, Cucurella, Gvardiol, they're all massively template picks in my opinion. Then you have Francisco Moura, Bastoni, Guerrero, DeMarco, Diaz, Howson, Rudiger, Asensio, Carreras, Ryerson, and also Andrea Cambiaso at the very bottom of this list. And then looking at the midfielders, Elise, Dembele, who is injured for the entire group stages apparently, unless he makes a big step up in his recovery. There's also Palmer, Mastantuono, Ashore, Doué, Bellingham, Vitinha, Musiala, the hat-trick hero off the bench. Also De Arrascaeta, who is a very good player at the moment for Uruguay, and Flamengo, Kvaratskhelia, Adeyemi, Enzo Fernandez, Francisco Moura, also Valverde, Kimmich, and Pedro Neto, who did very well in the opening game there. With forwards, we have Mbappe, Kane, Haaland, also Marmoush, Messi, Garassi, Abu Ali, Alvarez, Aguoa, Lautaro Martinez, Pavlidis, and Vinicius Jr. The rest have less than 5% ownership, and that's what brings us to the top differentials at the moment. So there is obviously a bit of uncertainty about, how this works. So do they need to have less than 5% ownership, or can they have that 5% ownership and still qualify for the scouting bonus? And based on this website, fantasyfootballpundit.com, it would suggest that if you have 5% ownership, you still qualify. But in the rules section, which is what should actually be in place, it says you have to have less than 5% ownership and score more than 4 points in a given match day. But we have Kerem Aktürkoğlu, who is in my team. We'll see how long he lasts in my squad. Barella, Bran, Robert Sanchez, Alex Telles, Stanisic, Rodri, Reece James, Di Gregorio, Pacho, Trezeguet, Joao Cancelo, Calhanoglu, Belali, Upamecano, Estaval, and Nicolas Otamendi, who did brilliantly against Boca Juniors to shut their fans up. And with goalkeepers, Sanchez, Di Gregorio, Bonu, Trubin, Ustari, Williams, Rossi, Ochoa, Romero, Weatherton, Majacin, they all qualify for the scouting bonus, but not all of them will start, of course. In the case of Boca Juniors, Majacin is the main goalkeeper, and Romero is out injured anyway. With defenders, we have Alex Telles, Stanisic, Reece James, so some of these names you would have seen in other graphics, William Bacho, Joao Cancelo, Upamecano, Otamendi, Marquinhos, Colwill, Lloyd Kelly, Jordi Alba, who missed matchday 1 through injury, also Ben Sabani, Hani, and a few others here and there like Benjamin Pavard, but my favourite from this list, at least for matchday 2, is Nicolas Otamendi. Let's complete this with the midfield and forward line. So we've got Karim Aktoglu once again, Brandt, Barella, Rodri, Balali, Kalanoglu, Foden, Madueke, Gittins, Arda Güler, Bernardo Silva, Doku, Busquets, Caicedo, De Paul, also Coman and Koke. So some very interesting names on that list. And finally, before we move on to the fixtures and then my updated wildcard squad, Trezeguet, Esteval, Thuram, Delap, Mitrovic, Yildiz, Jackson, Kolomuani, Griezmann, Sorloth, who missed an open goal against PSG, probably the miss of the tournament to be fair, Thomas Müller, Suarez, Vlahovic, also Rami, Cavani, Pedro, and Savinho, who I wouldn't recommend in this game. Now watch him score for Man City and just do an absolute madness. But that is the list of differentials, those with less than 5% ownership or who are just teetering on the edge. Some of them might have 5% at the moment, but that hopefully covers, a lot of different positions with the most template picks, and then some of the highest owned that have less than 5% ownership who are still a little bit popular, but maybe not quite, getting that sort of template push at this moment in time. So hopefully this was helpful. If you want to see this discussed in future team selection videos, then let me know down in the comment section below. But I think ownership figures are very important in this game because of the scouting bonus. We saw how powerful it was in matchday 1 up until this point. And now let's discuss the fixtures with the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating for match days 2 and 3, and then that very highly anticipated wildcard squad. It's worth taking a look at the power rankings provided by Opta one more time. PSG, Man City, Bayern Munich, Inter Milan, and Real Madrid are the top 5 ranked teams in this tournament. Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Benfica, and Juventus complete this top 10, and the likes of Flamengo, who are the 10th most likely to win this tournament apparently, according to fantasyfootballpundit.com, they are actually 14th in this list of the best squads overall. And looking at those kind of lower ranked, you've got the likes of Auckland City, who are by far the worst team in this tournament. You've also got Al Ain, also Ulsan HD, Wydad Casablanca, so 2 of those teams are in Man City's group alongside Juventus, so that could be fairly interesting, and maybe there is some hope for my matchday 1 team. But let's not get too carried away at this moment in time. And before I show the FDR, these are all the groups. And if you watch my predicted lineups video and also the updated version, you can see all of them ranked in order. So group A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Well done, Dylan. You can do the alphabet, but you can see all the fixtures for those respective teams. And the same goes for this graphic, because you can see the kind of most appealing fixtures for match days 2 and 3 in particular. But I do think the likes of Benfica, Man City and Juventus stand out for matchday 2 only, but then you look at matchday 3 and that's where things do become a little bit more complicated. But Borussia Dortmund, Fluminense, maybe even Chelsea, you could say, they have very good fixtures overall. I think Chelsea could struggle a little bit against Flamengo though, and they are definitely not worth underestimating. I think PSG also have brilliant fixtures now. They got their tough one out of the way and they won 4-0, building upon their treble and their fantastic form since late November. So hopefully this graphic does help you, and go to the website fantasyfootballpundit.com for all these graphics, not the Opta stats one, but in terms of the FDR and the ownership figures and all of that, it is very useful. You will see the goal scorer odds and the clean sheet probabilities, the tournament winners and all of that. That's all on that website. But now let's discuss the updated wildcard squad for matchday 2. With Denzel Dumfries missing matchday 1 and being a major doubt for the upcoming game, I think it's worth making a few tweaks to the squad, and also Kylian Mbappe will likely miss the match against Al Hilal later today. So I've got Kobel and Admani as the 2 goalkeepers. That hasn't changed. Also Hakimi, Bacho, Sasha Bowie as a little bit of a differential defender if he starts at right back once more. Gvardiol and Fran Garcia. So with this setup, you've got 3 differential defenders with less than 5% ownership. And for Matchday 2 specifically, you could go for Trubin over Kobel because you've got a better fixture on paper for Matchday 2. And also Trubin qualifies for the scouting bonus with less than 5% ownership. In the midfield, there are some template picks like Mastantuono, Doué, and Elise. But Di Maria's ownership is just over 5%, and Arias will be a differential for you. He qualifies for the scouting bonus, and he had a good performance against Borussia Dortmund. And up front, we've got Guirassy, Pavlidis, and Erling Haaland, who replaces Kylian Mbappe in this setup. And in terms of the captaincy, the way you want to work it out, because this game is, once again, absolutely hysterical, you want to go for the player who features first. So in this case, we have no one on the 19th of June, so you might want to rectify that and go for a 19th of June player in any single one of these positions. But the first one who plays will be on the 20th. So you just captain, let's say, Pavlidis or Di Maria, and within the same day, you can also captain Doué. It's really simple, and unfortunately, that sort of kind of discussion point about the captaincy has been taken away from us because we are sport for choice, in essence, because we can just keep changing it until we get it right. But that's the way you want to go about it. Just captain the player that plays first in your squad, then switch it to the next one who plays if you're not happy with your original captaincy score. And with substitutions, always have those playing on the first day, so in this case the 19th of June or the 20th, have them in your starting 11, and then later in the match day, so the likes of Erling Haaland, Gvardiol, maybe Fran Garcia, you can have them on the bench and then bring them on if needed. So that is all very clear, I think, and hopefully easy to understand, despite the fact that some rules seem to be changing and they aren't exactly what was represented in the rules section. But apart from the captaincy and the deadlines, everything else I discussed seems to be in order. I think with key passes, something else worth mentioning, I don't think they've added those points yet for midfielders. So maybe they're either doing for every 2 big chances created instead of 2 chances created, which is a very big difference, pardon the pun. But if not, they might just add them retrospectively, which could also make substitutions even more difficult and challenging, because you might need to search the stats for every single one of your midfielders and make sure they didn't get too many key passes and then they're added towards the end of the match day. But once things are clear, it will be covered on this channel, so you will know exactly what to do in a game which is designed for, confusion and absolute chaos. But hopefully you enjoy the ride throughout the Club World Cup Fantasy Tournament, and I think that pretty much concludes the best wildcard squad for match day 2. We have reached the end of this team selection video for Club World Cup Fantasy, but it's not the end in terms of joining my mini league. Yeah? Okay, no, whatever. But there is a link in the description below. There's also a code, and even if you join in match day 3 or after this deadline, match day 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, as long as you don't do it after the tournament ends, you basically have all your points counted from match day 1, which is quite neat, right? Just like UCL Fantasy and FPL, which I also cover on my channel. But a big shout out to those in the top 10 and also the top 12, as you can see on screen, because I am nowhere near at the moment, and you're putting me to shame on my bloody own channel. But congratulations to you. Keep on going, and by watching my videos, because I think I offer better advice than I actually perform in Club World Cup Fantasy at least, hopefully you take some value from my videos and podcasts. And if you've done so in this particular video, then like it, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you never miss a single upload or live stream for Club World Cup Fantasy and all the other fantasy games I cover on this channel. And let's try to get this video in particular to over 200 likes. Follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, further likes to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, Club World Cup Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. I'll see you tomorrow for that Matchday 2 deadline stream, and let's see what chaos happens this time.